Here's a brutal truth that most people don't seem to understand. A civil war doesn't look anything like that idea that you probably got running around in your head. It's not a bunch of soldiers marching in starched uniforms and flags waving all in the air, neatly lined up across some manicured battlefield. That's the Hollywood version, people. The real thing, it's ugly. It's up close and very personal. It's you standing there with a gun pointed at your neighbor across the street. The same guy who waves at you when you're out there getting your mail or cutting your grass. They're the same guy who borrowed your tools a couple of weeks back and still, for whatever reason, hasn't returned them. That's the very same guy that you'll be aiming your rifle at. And people don't like to think about that part of it. They want this fantasy version of civil war. They want to believe it'll be red on one side and blue states on the other side, a clean split, right down the middle. That's not how it goes, people. It never has, and it never will. History even shows us that. Let's take Rwanda's civil war. In this particular conflict, there were neighbors hacking neighbors and their children to death with machetes. They mutilated thousands of children just for sport. And in Spain's civil war, towns weren't split by town dividing lines. They were split block by block. And even here in America in the 1860s, it was brother killing brother, father against son, and neighbor against neighbor. And families were gutted and just ripped apart. And that's what civil war really looks like, people. And that's what civil war really looks like, people. And not some neat made for TV battle scene. It's chaos. Pure and utter chaos. And that chaos is right there in your neighborhood. And if you think America's any different, well, you're just lying to yourself. Because today, we're more divided than I've ever seen us. I mean, everything, and I do mean everything, has been weaponized. Politics, race, religion, even the damn grocery store that you shop at. So when the power's all out, right? The food is gone and the trust around the country and each other has totally eroded. It won't be Washington that you're fighting. It'll be that same guy next door. And everyone thinks this will be nice and clean for some reason, that they'll just pick a side and fight it out and it'll all make sense in the end. But please, show me that line. And where exactly do you split a town? Through a street? You don't. It's neighbor against neighbor. And once it starts, it's pretty much every man for himself. Because a civil war is driven on just plain fear and survival. And no two people, civil war doesn't create heroes. It creates survivors. And most of these are broken beyond repair. And you don't just bury your dead, shake hands, and go back to work on Monday and clock in like nothing happened. That's not how it works. Because the scars of war are deep and long lasting. And the kids who grow up in these war zones, they grow up knowing paranoia and trauma, not peace. I mean, just look at our own Civil War, for instance. We're 160 years past it, and we still argue about the flag. We're still out here fighting about war monuments, and we're still stuck on what the war even really meant. And there are whole regions that still carry that resentment so deep, it's like it's been passed down through their bloodline. And that's how deep Civil War really cuts. That's how long those scars last. Let's for a moment picture your own house, your neighborhood, your friends. Now imagine your kid coming up to you and asking you if the family down the block that they used to play with all the time is still safe. Or your wife coming to you and asking you if it's safe to walk the dog in your own neighborhood. That's what war does, though, people. Not only does it divide us, it poisons everything it touches. And if you think that there's a reset button afterwards, you're out of your mind. There's no reset. There's no going back. People want to believe that one day it'll all end and we'll just go back to work, back to normal. Like none of it ever happened. No, you won't. After a civil war, there is no normal. The economy collapses, jobs vanish, and schools don't just magically reopen themselves. You don't just get to sweep it up and paint over everything and move on. No, it's not like that. You're stuck living in the ruins of war, mind you, with the very same people you once tried to kill. Let me draw you a clear mental picture of what that looks like. There's no power. Most substations and power stations, power lines, power poles destroyed. There's little to no clean water. We have become so dependent upon bottled water and city water. There are very few wells left. And even during the Civil War, the wells that were left, they poisoned them with dead bodies or carcasses of animals. So I would expect that to happen. There's no gas. So there's no cooking unless you have wood, but wood will give away your location. There's no police or emergency services or fire services for that matter. And now you're dirty and you're hungry. Your family's dirty and hungry. So you're standing in line for food. If there's any of that still available, there may be a scarcity of that. And everyone around you is armed because, after all, we are in or have just come out of a civil conflict. And everybody is watching each other because now everyone's suspect. There's no trust left and paranoia is running amok. You don't know who the enemy is because, after all, the enemy looks just like you or just like the guy next door. And you don't know if that guy behind you, if he just wants to get food to feed his family or he wants your food. And because there's no power, the nights are now pitch black. The kind of black where you can't even see your hand in the front of your face. I don't know if a lot of you guys have been outside, like out in the wilderness or in the country. That's a different kind of dark than city dark. And depending upon where you are at in the country and the season, it's either too hot or too cold because there's no air conditioning, there's no heat. And every noise you hear puts you on edge because you've been trained to listen now. Every noise means something. And listening, something that we don't do now, but we'll learn. So because of that, you don't sleep now. Or if you do sleep, it's very, very lightly sleep deprivation. And your kids don't sleep. They don't sleep because they can't. They're paranoid and they're traumatized. And people, I don't know, does that sound much like freedom? Like the freedom that you would go to war for? Because to me, that sounds a lot like hell on earth. And we've seen it before. I mean, it's not new. Syria never went back to normal after their civil war. And in Rwanda, those people didn't just hug it out and everything was magically forgotten. Those scars live on for generations after the conflict. And America will be no different. That's why I'm saying this. I mean, your neighbor won't save you in a civil war. It'll be every man for himself. Survival of the fittest. They'll protect themselves and their family first, wouldn't you? And if that means you're in the way, oh, you're done. Kill or be killed. So before you go out and champion or cheer this whole Civil War idea on, like I hear people doing, ask yourself something. Are you really ready to watch your quiet street turn into a war zone for you to lose everything that you've worked your entire life for? And are you really ready to look at that man that you prayed with and ate with and maybe even went to high school or played sports with, call him an enemy? And are you really prepared to lose family members or perhaps your own life? Because that's exactly where this goes. And once that line has been crossed, people, there's no going back. Blood doesn't wash out. It soaks in and it stains everything it touches. So the real question isn't what side would you choose to fight on? The real question is why so many of us think that fighting each other is the only option that we have left. And look, you want something practical to ponder or think on? Talk to the people around you. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Take the initiative to go out and find out who your neighbors really are before you're forced to face them as enemies. The problem is we're being told things about people and not finding out for ourselves. We're choosing to accept what we're being told as fact. And don't forget this. We still have control over how far this thing goes. And if we choose to let it escalate to our block, then that's on all of us. And if you've got any thoughts or comments on this, drop them down below and let's talk about them. Because if we can't come together and talk as men, then maybe we're already too far gone. So when conflict hits your block, don't expect any salvation. Don't expect it to come from across the street. Don't expect it to come from Washington. Because when it comes right down to it, nobody's coming to save you. Only you can save you. Unc's words of wisdom. Hey, take care of yourself and each other out there. I'll see you guys in the next one.